Hey guys, welcome to Somewhere in the Middle. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Angie.
Today we are looking at the relationships between grown daughters and their mothers. But first, I want to take the time to say I hope everybody's doing okay after the winter storms that we had last week. Um, I know that many of us down in Texas lost power, lost water. Some of us lost family members. And then COVID is still going on. And there's been a lot going on. So I hope everybody is fine. I know some of my family members were affected and are still displaced. And so I just pray that everybody is just in good spirits and looking forward to a better day because they got to get better. Okay, guys.
Oh, that was sweet.
Anyway, so the relationship between grown daughters and their mothers, I think I was watching a video this morning and I know that this was in our original lineup of shows because it's such a sensitive topic and a very important topic for adults, especially those of us somewhere in the middle between, old age and youth. And, we still have our mothers and they're still, um, you know, if you're lucky enough to still have your mother, I should say that many of them are still very active and participants in our lives, and to a good, you know, to some of us that's a great thing, and for some of us, sometimes it can be challenging. And so we wanted to definitely address this topic. This may, what I was thinking is it may wind up being a series. I'm not sure, depending.
Depending on how deep we're willing to go. How deep you want to hear us go.
Right. So, with looking at that, what is one of the main things that comes to your mind when you think about your relationship with your mother, or because you're on both sides. You have a grown daughter, and you are a grown daughter yourself. For your mom. So, how do you feel about the topic in general?
The topic in general, I think, is something that needs to be discussed. I think traditionally in Black families, you've had so many instances where, the grandmother didn't tell the mother certain things, so the mother didn't tell her daughter, and it passed down. Some people may refer to them as generational curses or, different things like that. So I think it's super important now that as we are exploring more about ourselves and our interactions with people, places, and things, that we talk about the dynamics that you want to exist, that do exist, and maybe how to have a better relationship if you don't.
Absolutely, I agree that in this times we are starting to be a little bit more introspective. I think with a lot of us, you know, not so much having that sink or swim, that survivalist instinct. I think a lot of us now are actually getting a chance to where we're thinking about our mental health and why we do the things that we do, and the generational curses that we may be under, and the just the motivations that we have behind some of our activities. And so, yeah, I think this is a good time to bring it up and to just start the dialogue. And who knows, what comes to mind when you think about your relationship with your mom?
Um, it's funny when we decided that we were going to talk about this. Me and you have been friends for a very long time, so you've been exposed to a lot of the dynamics that we have. But the thing that stood out to me the most was it wasn't until my daughter became an adult and became a parent that I started doing some of the same things my mom did to me, and my daughter brought it to my attention. She's like, "You acting just like your mama." And at first I kind of got offended. I acted like my mama. But then I dug a little deeper and, tried to figure out, am I being like my mama? Like, because I didn't want my daughter to feel how I felt sometimes when my mother told me certain things about the decisions that I made in my life. So I took a moment because, like you said, I'm in the middle of these two dynamics. And I thought about it and I was like, wow, if I'm making my daughter feel like my mama made me feel when I made decisions, whether she was supportive or not supportive or condescending or whatever the feeling may be. And I'm taking that same message and I'm passing it to my child, my own child. I said to myself, I was like, okay, you got to do something. We need to figure it out. Let's pull back the layers. And luckily, my daughter is, a millennial. So she's super about the why behind you do things and, for the people and, the humanitarian. So she's super open to having that dialogue with me about, well, this is how I felt when you said that. And that didn't, come across the way you thought it came across. It was rude, Angela. That's how she calls me when I'm being inappropriate. She'll call me by my first name. She won't call me mama. She'll call me Angela. That's my trigger. That's for her to say, hey, you taking it a bit too far. But that was one of the things that I thought about. And I really wanted to kind of explore it a little bit, today, of the things that we do and say and how it makes people feel.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that was the topic of that video I watched this morning. I was telling you about um where the mom was very upset about basically being treated like a child or being talked to like a child by the daughter. Um and beyond that, never even acknowledging the fact of the daughter having a point. Even after she apologized, the mother still was basically like, no, I don't forgive you. No, just don't talk to me that way. And so that brings up my next point about respect. But I will say this about my own relationship with my mother, who, thank God is very present in my life. But I think for me, she's very present in a appropriate, supportive way, in the background. That doesn't mean she doesn't have her comments, and we'll get into that, a little bit later. But our interactions have, for the most part, been very positive since I've been an adult. But I think that comes from her being able to recognize, even before I was an adult, she recognized that she had to release me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may come up several times during the course of the discussion. Has your mother, as you as an adult, has your mother released you into your own womanhood?
That's the $1 million question. And it's funny because I tell my daughter all the time, when I try to dictate things in her life, um, but I have to deal with the consequences of her actions. So as long as we're still using our parent as a crutch, we still using our mama, because I've called my mama, to bail me out of some very big, big dilemmas. And my mother feels like, as long as you call me and ask me for help, I have a right to comment on how you're doing things. And I don't agree with that. And then when I started doing it to my own daughter, my daughter was like, hey, you can't control what goes on over here. And I was like, but I gotta fix it. Well, don't fix it, because you can't control what goes on over here. And I said, oh, I was, it's like, okay. But I think that's where that idea comes in from, certain aspect of it, that my mother feels like, well, if you still calling me needing my help, then that gives me a right to comment on it. And it doesn't. I need your help. Whether I needed help from you, my next door neighbor, or Mr. Rogers, get asking for help. The police, if I call the police for 911 because I didn't, been robbed, they're not coming to my house asking me, well, why did you buy that MacBook? Why did you buy that expensive TV? They're not questioning, why I bought, high value items that somebody was enticed to come steal it. And that's kind of how I feel about my mama. Just because I ask you for help, and that help could be financial, it could be mental, it could be spiritual help, it could be any kind of help. Help is not necessarily somebody handing you a check, but whatever help it is, giving me advice, being there for me, um, still doesn't give you the right to try to dictate how I live my life.
Absolutely. I think that definitely is another departure from our relationship with my mom, because Whereas most people, feel like they do have their mom when something goes wrong. For me, it was always, and even as a child, I never expected necessarily to be bailed out or to get those things that I wanted or whatever. But that's not to say that I didn't always get them, because many times I did, but I didn't expect it. And so as an adult, my mom, went through her own things that she, financial things or emotional, spiritual things that she went through. And so when I needed help, I may have let her know that I needed help, but I didn't expect the help. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so when she did come through, which she did, each and every time, if I needed, help, she was there, but I never expected it. And so she never treated me like, I'm your safety net. And so I have a right to, dictate your life. She would say, well, I don't think that's a good idea, but that's your life, and even from back in college, just calling saying crazy stuff. I remember the first car I wanted to buy, and I was so adamant on getting this Suzuki Samurai. I'll never forget. It's like a little Jeep. Remember that? Oh, it was so cute. And girl, it was raggedy. It was a 5-speed. It was I don't think that was a good idea, but that's your money. And I wound up not getting it, but I took her advice, but I never looked at her as somebody who, you know, was a dictator to me. So anyway, but yeah, that makes a big difference. I think when you don't release the person to make their own mistakes. And I think my mama prepared us for that early on. When you get grown, the decisions you make gonna be yours.
Yeah.
The consequences you get are going to be yours. And so I that's one thing I know I'm doing with my kids now, that they're little, not telling them, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that when you grow up, but telling them your decisions are going to be yours,
Right.
and you're going to have to live with those decisions,
Right.
because I'm not going to be there. It's going to be your life. So you're going to be able to blame me
Right.
saying that your life didn't turn out. I'm going to expose you and give you the tools that you need, that I think you need. You're going to have to do the best you can do.
Right.
So, like, in that way, I just think I was released. And
Right.
I'm gonna definitely release my own.
Yeah. See, I didn't do that with my daughter. I didn't want her to make the same mistakes I made. I would always tell her, I made them. So we already know that the stove is hot. You don't have to touch the stove to know the stove is hot. Just listen to me, but that listening aspect was always hard, for her to maintain, but I didn't want her to have to, relive my mistakes. I wanted her to create all new ones, and that was what I always tried to get her to understand. And I think clearly now I was doing it wrong, but in that moment, in that space, um, I didn't want her to make mistakes, but I didn't know that I was stifling her growth or letting her be her own person, and that would come a point where I wouldn't live in the city with her. I wouldn't be right there next door, to her. And you don't think about different things when you're making decisions, right? You're thinking, oh, I'm trying to be the best mama I can be, not knowing that, there'll come a point, and there will come a point when you might not be able to be there for her, hold her hand. And if you haven't given her the skills and tools necessary to be a functioning adult, you've done her a disservice. You failed her, Um,
Yeah.
so, but I didn't want
Yeah.
her to be perfect.
Yeah, we all do. I don't, because I know that's a unrealistic expectation. I feel like I did the best I could with the mom I had. My children gonna have to do the same. At the end of the day, I know there are areas in which I fall short, and there are areas in which I excel. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna do, the best I can do, on a day-to-day basis. And we all gonna have to live with the decisions that we make as individuals. I'm an individual, even though I birthed them. They're individuals, even though they came out of my body. And so it's the little girl fault, because when she was little, she showed me, I don't care nothing about what you talking about. I'm gonna go over here and run this school like it's my school. then she was in the, pre-K. You know what I mean? So I knew then it's only so much influence I'm gonna have.
Right.
And so I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna have the rules that I have in my house. I'm gonna do things as I see fit. And beyond that, she gonna live her life. And she
Mm-hmm.
gonna make her mistakes. Hopefully she's gonna see her successes and her failures and learn from those things and grow just like we all did
Right.
at the end of the day. Um, but anyway, that brings me to another point of the responsibilities. What are the responsibilities that your mom has to you? What does she owe you? What do you owe her?
Ooh, that's a loaded question right there. Um, I owe my mom respect for giving me life, but in my opinion, that's the extent of it. Um, I don't feel like I owe her anything but to give her respect. Um, she would probably disagree. She would probably disagree, but I don't know, you know, what see I don't know. That's such a tough question for me because me and my mom haven't always had the best relationship. We're better now in our older age, but I feel like we missed out on, 20 good years of not being okay, for to be okay now. Um, but I feel like I feel like my daughter doesn't owe me anything but to take care of my grandbaby, and my mama don't owe me anything but to take care of her and I owe her to take care of her grandbaby. Well, her grandbaby is not an adult who has a great grandbaby. It's a lot of babies in this scenario, but I don't feel like I owe her respect, and that's about it. I don't owe her any monetary, no nothing. She gave me life. She raised a functioning adult that's a contributing member of society, and I think that's my thank you to her. I'm not in jail, prison, on drugs, kind of sane, in debt a little bit, but.
I muted myself because I had background family noise. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I don't know if you're right, but that's definitely a good point. Um, what do I owe my mom? I feel like I owe my mom more now because I do have kids,
Mm,
and she does take on some of that responsibility, um and she doesn't have to, and I appreciate it. So when I get a little change, I throw her a little something, when I get a chance. But she watched my child when I couldn't,
yeah.
you know when I didn't have anything, um and so where that's concerned, I do feel like I owe her a debt of gratitude. um and not only for that, not only for those tangible things that I'm getting now, or the benefits that I'm getting now that I have kids and she doesn't work, and she's able, but those intangible things that she, I feel bestowed upon me as I grew, into a person, um we were not limited in a lot of ways, growing up. We were able to, because of her ups and her downs, we were able to see, so many things of perseverance and work ethic and, responsibility, and even down to, how to drink alcohol, and, how to deal with people, and how to not, you know, how to care for people and love people. Hey, go. Um,
Being a parent never
but
stops.
also, huh?
Being a parent never stops.
Baby, it's gonna stop in a few minutes because it's about to be bedtime. And look, he just happy I didn't tell him to brush his little teeth. Go brush your teeth, boy. Talking about I almost got away with it. Oh, baby, that's Arthur Child. Anyway, but so many things, like I was saying, how to love and take care of people, and give all that you can, but not be used, and not be a doormat, and not be stepped on, and not be treated poorly in your home, and to have peace. All those things I feel came from her, and so I don't think I ever be, you know, not indebted to her. Not that she makes me feel indebted to her, but just if I think about it, it's just like my father in heaven, who, I liken it in the same way, just the way that I feel that there's no way that I can't come to him. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I feel like there's nothing that I can do where I can't go to her. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. And I feel like and I guess I'm just now realizing I put it in those terms. I feel like there's no way, there's no broken downness that I can have that she won't, you know, accept me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Just like, my father in heaven. I truly feel that way. And so I don't feel like I ever live up to, what I owe her. But that's me and my mama. I
Right.
feel like you owe your mom respect
Mhm.
up until that respect that you're giving her costs you your peace.
Well, see, but that's why you remember the video you had me watch this morning. That's why,
That's why I'm thinking about that.
right. But but what happens is yeah, I'm gonna give my mama respect I, all the time, even when I disagree with her. But you know what I do when the situation is volatile? I remove myself from it. I respect you, but I ain't gonna be here. I'm not gonna come over. I'm
Yeah.
not coming over. We ain't doing Thanksgivings. We're not doing none of that. Hey, how you doing? I'm gonna be nice. I ain't gonna call you out your name. It'll be none of that. But I choose not to have you in my presence because you don't bring me peace. I'm not gonna be in a battlefield. I gotta fight all day at work. I'm not gonna come home and fight
Ooh.
too.
Ooh.
So you remove yourself from those situations.
Absolutely.
Don't mean I don't love you. I love you, but I'm gonna love you from over here.
Yeah. And you have to be that way, unfortunately, with everybody in your life. And people feel a certain way when I say this, but even your grown kids, I don't care who it is. At the end of the day, when you allow yourself to be emotionally brought down for so long, that's going to take a toll
Right,
on you. And eventually you're going to feel that that is your normal.
right,
Eventually you're going to feel as though this is your state in life and this is what you have to deal with, and you really don't.
right,
Okay, you don't have to deal with that from anybody, your
right,
parent. And I don't agree with being disrespectful to your parent, but I do agree with making that separation and understanding when it's either going to be me or you.
right,
Okay, and I just don't want it to be me.
right,
Okay, this goes to what I was saying earlier real quick about when my mom says things that I don't want to hear. I take it.
yeah,
I take it right on in and might make a comment or two and make my look, but then I go on and I live my life. I don't internalize it. If it's something good, I'm gonna listen to it. And then many times it is. I'm gonna listen, but I'm not gonna feel judged. I'm not gonna feel downtrodden. I'm not gonna beat myself up
right,
because I know that as a woman, first, she lived her life in the best way she knew. And at this point, as a woman, I'm doing the same thing. And was she perfect? Not in any way. Am I perfect? Not at all. However, we moving about this life the best way we can. And so
right,
I'm gonna take her advice just as well as I'll take anybody else's.
right,
But I'm not gonna let it, you know,
right.
weigh on my emotions.
Right. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to subject myself and listen to something that is condescending, derogatory, demeaning. I'm not going to sit there and take it either. So if the conversation isn't a positive conversation, if it isn't, something where it's, beneficial and mutually beneficial or beneficial to me, cool. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to sit here and we're not going to talk bad about me, my choices, my lifestyle. And I'm gonna sit there and take it. Hey, that's your opinion. I'm gonna go on and go. I'm gonna just go on and go. I'm not gonna listen to it. And I feel like that's not disrespectful if I choose to not listen to it. Why I'm gonna sit around and let you talk about me? No. Okay, you don't like the choices I've made in life? Cool. Me and my choices gonna go over here.
Right.
Back if you
Right.
want to. So
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think that a lot of times our parents can take the role of being a parent and not understand there's a separation between parenting a child and parenting another adult. At a certain point, you have to understand that the role changes.
Right.
Um, I had a customer at Verizon, and I loved him. I loved him and his wife. They were so cute. Um, but we were having a conversation one day, and he was mentioning that he had his last child in college in medical school. Had never had a car. Was still riding a bus. He said, "My influence. Eventually, I'm not gonna have any influence over his life. But while I do, I'm gonna put as much into him as I can." And for him, that meant making him ride the bus. I mean, it seems cruel because most of us want our kids to be able to drive as soon as they can get a driver's license. But he wanted to teach his child something different. But he recognized that whatever his rule is, whatever his influence is, at some point there's going to be an end to that. And you're going to have to begin to have a different kind of conversation with this adult. Your conversation has to be different. Your tone of voice even sometimes has to be different. If you want it to be received
Right.
well, if you want to maintain a mutual respect. Because one thing that I noticed when I grew past college age was that I still had a different kind of respect for my mother. I respected her more as a woman, not just as somebody who had me, but as a woman on her own, in her own. But that respect was mutual.
Mm-hmm.
It was mutual. And so um trust me, she still cussed me out. You know what I mean? I still get cussed out. I ain't gonna lie. But I don't get cussed out in a way that, I get cussed out in the same way that I always did. It's not a big deal. She's not gonna do anything to try to, you know, bring me down or do something that's just not who she is.
Right.
Um, but you have to know the difference between parenting a child and
Mm-hmm.
parenting an adult.
So true. So true. So true. I wish that me and my mom, the place that we're in now, I wish, we had got there, a long time ago. But you said something that was so thought provoking just a few minutes ago. As an adult and being a mother and now a grandmother, I see my mama in a totally different lens. You know, she's not just my mama, she's another woman, another, not being my mama, not being, my daughter's grandmother, just being her. And seeing her as an adult, we actually had a conversation as adults about a traumatic event that happened to us when I was a child. And being in the same situation that she was in, 30 years prior, I told her, we broke down the car. Were you at the house that day? And I said, I I never thought about how you felt when that happened. I only thought about me. I was a child when it happened. And she was like, yeah, nobody thought about me, but I had to put my feelings to the side because I had a child. I couldn't bask in that moment and be sorry and feel down, about myself because I had you that was dependent on me. And it took 30 years for me to realize the sacrifices she made was as a
Mm.
woman. She wasn't my mama. This was a woman who had a husband and she was a wife and had to deal with something, and I didn't realize it. So I think a lot of times when we have these strained relationships with these mothers and daughters, if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, if you can see the
Mm.
person in the other person's shoes, you may have a better understanding of how they're, acting towards you or why they're doing some of the things that you're doing. My mama didn't want me to repeat what happened to her. And I was on the path to repeat exactly what happened to her. And she was traumatized about it. And because there was no therapy, there was no counseling, there was no resources to help her be able to communicate to me how she felt, she acted out in different ways trying to get me to understand, but I took that as being personally attacked. But the whole time she just didn't want what happened to her to happen to me.
Mm. Wow.
I know
Yeah,
y'all
that
want to
is.
know. Put in the comments if y'all want to know. I might tell y'all on a separate one. I didn't want to go that deep with them today, girl.
Yeah. Um, I think if we all take a time, I mean, that's a life lesson for any relationship. If you're able to step back enough and put yourself in somebody else's shoes, it can only help your empathy for that person and their circumstances, and again, like you say, their motivations and why they're doing what they're doing. It's not to say that all of the actions can be excused, but it's nothing, you can't put a price on understanding.
Mm-mm.
um Understanding is where we start when we try to mend our relationships, where we try to be better for our future, when we try to move forward from traumatic experiences. Understanding is the best place to start. With that being said, I think we're gonna go into closing thoughts on this. We're trying to time it, y'all. We're trying to keep these hour-long discussions down. So, like I said, I think this will probably be something else that we'll bring up at another point. Please comment on some of the issues between you or your parents, and things that you've experienced that maybe we can talk about in the next segment on relationships between mothers and daughters, and we may even have to talk about fathers and sons or whatever. Closing thoughts?
I think honestly, at the end of the day, you live in a very unique time. You know, we're living in a post COVID world with tons of resources, tons of information at your fingertips. If you do have a strained relationship with your mom and you want to make it better, this is a start. The start is to first addressing, hey, we do have a problem and I want to make it better. But there are so many things that are available to you. And if the relationship is salvageable, I would encourage you to do whatever it takes to try to get to some kind of common ground, because ultimately at the end of the day, you do only get one mom. And and to have a relationship that you could have fixed just by one phone call, one text message, one something, I would encourage you to do it.
Awesome. I wouldn't have had those closing thoughts, but that was awesome. That was great.
Oh, oh, oh.
Absolutely everything she said. If there's a way, the last thing you want to do is be looking at a situation where it wasn't too late, but now it is too late,
Right.
and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't care how much begging and pleading and praying you do. When it's over, it's over. So, absolutely, if you can. Now, with that being said, um, it's not respect at all costs. Okay, it's really not. So if you know that you're dealing with somebody um, who at the end of the day does not mean you well, whether it's your child, whether it's your parent, if you know you're dealing with somebody at the end of the day who you're going to regret bringing back into your life, may want to let sleeping dogs lie. I'm here to tell you that if it comes down to you versus the other person, you always got to go with self-preservation. Okay. And your people who are looking up to you need to see you preserving yourself. They don't need to see you being a doormat for nobody. So, anyway, with that being said, that's it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Comment below, subscribe, and like the video. Thanks.